It's been pretty busy for pedestrian accidents lately.
Yes. We've responded to, just this weekend, 2 pedestrian crashes. Both of them were fatalities. One was on Oleander Drive, the other was on Market Street.
And I know there was another one in a county within the last 10 days as well. So
There was.
Tell us what common themes you're seeing and what people should be on the lookout for.
The commonalities with all of our pedestrian crashes are crossing in the middle of the block, not at a crosswalk, typically at night wearing dark clothing, and impairment. Those are typically, it's one or all 3 of those involved in almost every pedestrian fatality that we have.
Impairment on the pedestrian.
Impairment on the pedestrian's part, yes.
Okay.
Was that the case in all 3 of these incidents as far as you know?
These 2 are still under investigation. It is a possibility, but we can't rule it out.
So honestly, Wilmington doesn't seem to be that friendly of a walking town in the daytime. So I feel like you're kind of taking your life in your hands literally if you try to cross the road at night.
You are. There are intersections and marked crosswalks and traffic lights. That is the safest place to cross. You know, when you cross outside of those intersections and crosswalks, you're really running the gamble, you know, whether or not you get hit by a car. Because especially at night, don't think that the motorist is going to see you. A lot of times the dark clothing, the lighting, they don't see you until it's too late.
And on these roads, I mean, the speed limit is pretty decent. You know, people are driving at a pretty good pace,
Right.
so they don't have a lot of time to react.
Right. 45 miles an hour, somewhere around there. If you slam on the brakes at 45 miles an hour, you're going almost 75 to 100 feet before you come to a stop. And that's without hitting anything. So we know most people on average go about 5 or 6 over the posted speed limit. So 50 miles an hour, it's about 100 feet to stop.
I mean, there's a reason why you guys wanted to do this. I mean, having 2 over the weekend in a short period of time, what is the reason why you wanted to even provide some tips to the public?
We want the public to understand that these are adults that are getting hit. It's not children. If it's children, you could excuse it as they don't know any better. These are all adults over the age of 21. We want to remind people that cross at a crosswalk, cross at the light, don't run the risk of crossing in the middle of the road at night wearing dark clothing. Just be smart, because each one of these impacts families. You know, even though the survivors of the people that hit these pedestrians, they have to deal with this for the rest of their life.
Sure.
Now, these sections of Market and Oleander, they may have traffic lights, but they don't generally have a lot of crosswalks. What would you recommend to people in those areas who are trying to cross the street?
Absolutely. If there's not a crosswalk, we also have to look at the traffic lights. Treat yourself, the pedestrian, like a vehicle. When you're wanting to cross this way, wait for that way to have a green light, and you just walk with traffic. Because a lot of times they don't have marked crosswalks, but you use the traffic lights to your advantage.
Are you surprised still, like even though it's been happening a lot, like that people are still trying this, that people are still walking at night?
I am surprised. Especially with, we just had a fatal car crash in that same block of Oleander on Friday. So it's highly publicized. You guys do a good job of putting it out there. People know how dangerous it is. The ones that happened over the weekend were 2 spots where we tend to have quite a few pedestrian crashes. So, please, the people out there, make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to. Use the crosswalks.
Usually with the drivers, are they occasionally impaired, or is it just that the odds are against them to be able to?
The odds are against them. You've got to take into consideration lighting. A lot of these crashes are happening nighttime hours, and while it may seem well lit just to somebody driving down the road, you have to think the pedestrian might be backlit or lit in the foreground. So us as the drivers have a very hard time seeing them until we're right up on top of them. Most headlights will only shine about 200 feet down the road on a good day. So, the drivers do not see these people until it's too late.
You sound like they're just completely preventable.
They are. The overwhelming majority, I'd probably say 95 to 99% are preventable. If the pedestrian either waits until traffic is absolutely clear or uses a crosswalk or an intersection, these crashes are preventable. I've been here 17 years. I only know of a couple, like maybe 2 or 3, that were pedestrians hit in a crosswalk. And that was usually impairment or some other factor on the driver's part, not to see the pedestrian.
And you keep mentioning crosswalks, and like Ann said before, there are many parts of the road that just don't have crosswalks. I mean,
Right.
Those sections, people get brave and they just try to.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
So what would you say to people? People think they're faster than they are, I'm sure.
We also have an unmarked crosswalk, and if you pan around behind you, you will see it's not marked, but you see how the sidewalk goes on one end and it continues on the other. that's an unmarked crosswalk. Usually that's at a intersection or a traffic signal. You have the same protections in that, especially because it's close to the intersection. For people, that's where they expect pedestrians to cross. They're not looking for a pedestrian to cross in the middle of the block.
My last question, you said you've worked here 17 years. Are you seeing any trends in the last year or two, like any kind of I mean, I know there's been a micro uptick in this last 10-day period, but are you seeing any trends overall with people just walking more at night?
The walking is going to be about the same. We're a college town, we're a tourist town. A lot of people, we have this good weather. I mean, it's almost 90 degrees and it's October. We do have a lot of people that are out, whether it's biking or walking. As far as trends go, we are starting to see the fatalities decrease. This just is one of those fluke months that's going to happen, where we have quite a few in 30 days. A lot of people are being smarter on the motorist part. They're not drinking as driving like they did 5-10 years ago, you know, with ride share and taxi cabs. We're really getting a lot more impaired drivers off the road. Now we just got to enlighten and teach the pedestrians and cyclists. You know, you got to be careful. We're trying to do everything we can to stop the cars, but you know, the pedestrians take it upon themselves where they cross.
As far as one of these incidents that appears to have been a hit and run, is there anything else you can tell the public about the suspect vehicle, anything they can do to help at this point?
They're still investigating. Our officers are out there today trying to find footage from the local businesses and that surround that area, and hopefully we can get a suspect vehicle description out.
So was that person crossing, or were they just walking along the side? They were crossing.
Crossing.
Okay.
Both of these this weekend, the pedestrian was crossing from one side of a major highway to the other, which is
just risking their lives.
Just risking their lives to cross the street. Yes.
Cool.
Anything else you want to add before we let you go
No,
here?
just please, if you're walking, be careful. That's
right.
it.
Thank you.